me backups. Okay. Okay, now I feel it's gonna be interesting.
Suggesting that this was a kill order, an assassination attempt of Donald Trump. If anything, I think that this presents another notch, another piece of evidence that the raid was wholly inappropriate. It was inappropriately dangerous because it puts agents theoretically in a situation where they could be using deadly force on Secret Service agents, or on Donald Trump, or on somebody, a member of his staff, or a member of his family.
If it's SOP, if it's standard operating procedure, if it's policy, why did it have to be in writing? I mean, I know that the FBI is a law enforcement agency. I know it's an investigative agency. I know you guys all carry guns.
National Police Department, they just call it
somebody putting your life in danger. Why did it have to be written?
Damn.
That is the nature of these operations plans. They have everything very granularly, to the point of the phone numbers of everyone involved, the responsibilities, the type of uniform of the day you're supposed to wear, how many pistol magazines that are supposed to be on your hips. They get very specific. There's also a medical evacuation plan with a route to the nearest hospital, where a helicopter could theoretically land if there needs to be a medevac. This is the nature of government. They get very specific, over the top, and it's to cover their butts. I mean, they want to be able to say, look, you were told, you know the Department of Justice use of force policy. There is no special circumstances today. So if you shot outside of that, if you use deadly force, then they would actually be able to hold someone accountable.
It is Steve Friend. Go and follow his podcast, rumble.com/amradpod, AMRAD-POD. Go follow him over on social media as well. What's interesting to me about this entire thing is I thought that there were different gradations of how the FBI would respond to something. When you go into the former president's house, and you know Secret Service is there, you know there's a skiff there, you know it's a secure place, and you know that your life is going to be in danger as an FBI agent. I don't know why you would have the same exact policy as going and trying to apprehend armed bad guys, bank robbers or Venezuelan gangs. Is this just the same policy no matter where the raid is, no matter where the warrant is being served? Do they always show up like they did at Mar-a-Lago?
No, they don't always show up like they did at Mar-a-Lago, but they use them.
Why did they do that then?
That is, again, there's a political element to this. There's no question about it. There's a weaponization element to that. This is making the process, the punishment. They wanted the photos. That's why they brought the classified cover sheets for all the documents that really weren't there. It was a photo op. This is not an objection. I object with this, and I think that there was actually a case we made that the hostage rescue team, which was the elite SWAT team, probably should have thrown the flag and said, we're not sending our guys to that. That's an unnecessary risk. But in effect, you can look through the operations plan when they went to bring down Damocles' sword on the head of anyone who is pro-life in this case. And I think that this is another indicator of the fact that there is an overly broad interpretation of when you should use these tools. The FBI shouldn't be a hammer in search of a nail. They should pride themselves on using the least amount of force necessary on all cases. And you should be taking winners and losers, for lack of a better term here. And definitely when it comes to SWAT, there's a matrix. There's an actual decision tree that they're able to use, but it's overly broad. The presence of dogs were considered to be like attack dogs, or the belief that someone might be in possession of a firearm, that's enough to send the SWAT team. Well, we have a Second Amendment in this country, and we're presumed guilty until proven guilty. So just the mere presence of a firearm, the FBI can interpret that. That needs to be addressed. That needs to be reauthored to a more finally, a more narrow interpretation of when SWAT is appropriate, or even when a large-scale arrest operation is appropriate. Because as you said, you can make a phone call. You can send a local law enforcement official who you maybe have a relationship with. You can use surveillance to interdict him. The guy's on his way to work. He stops off to get gas and get a coffee. Well, guess what he has when he has his coffee in his hand? He doesn't have the ability to grab a weapon.
It's Steve Friend. He's an FBI whistleblower, also host of American Radicals podcast. Go to AMRAD Pod. He's got a brand new book called True Blue. I want to get into that in just a minute. But let me ask you this. I've heard some candidates, when there were a bunch in the Republican side, that have said, I think Vivek Ramaswamy said something to the effect of either revamp or get rid of the DOJ. At this point, can you get rid of the DOJ? Can the FBI be reformed? Can we fix what's going wrong? Because I get the feeling that those, especially on top, not maybe the frontline people, I think don't like the way that it's going right now. But those on top who are running it think they have no limitations and that they are in fact the government.
I think that there's these drastic reforms that are necessary. If the one half does the other when it comes to police fighting and starting it all over again. To me, the ultimate solution, if you're going to go short of actually defunding the FBI and starting over, the one reform that you can potentially do is disarm it, defang it by that way. Take away all the guns, return it to its origin. The FBI was an unarmed bureau of investigation. I think we should do that with all federal agencies. There shouldn't be 1811 criminal investigators, special agents, guys who are on SWAT team or Department of Agriculture. No more guns, with the exception of a very small cadre of United States Marshals. And I would only do that to protect the courthouses, do prisoner transport, and then deputize local police and deputies and give them
hiding
with state and federal arrest authority, because those are the guys that know the usual suspects. They know the crime. They're incentivized to actually bring crime down, because the sheriff loses his job at the next election, crime goes up, and they can direct the FBI's resources and actually carry out and affect the arrest. So if the FBI were to investigate Joe Pag, unarmed, and then go to the deputy that the sheriff that has control of your county and say, we think Joe's a domestic terrorist. Well, your sheriff could say, well, I don't agree with that. And in fact, we're actually not going to be investigating or arresting Joe Pag. We're going to be addressing the fentanyl that's poured over the southern border.
It's an intelligent way to look at it, and here's why. And you just spelled it out. I'll just reiterate it for those who are watching and listening. This literally gives the local people in the local area that they know, that they live in, the ability to direct what the federal government wants to do, instead of somebody coming from Washington or some local field office who might not have the familiarity of the area and might not understand how things work here. The local guys, as you said, fit in the account. They'll get voted out. They will not become the next sheriff next time. They won't be the DA next time if they overstep their boundaries as well. Why wouldn't they want to include local law enforcement that way? Do they do that now or at all, or no?
They do that now, and I'm just advocating that we actually expand it. These guys get brought in all the time to augment an FBI. The FBI is only 14,000 special agents. Like I can tell you from my personal experience, we policed an area essentially that was 4 counties, 1 million citizens with 8 special agents. It's impossible to do. You have to liaise with the local agencies. They send their people over, and they're made into task force officers. They get deputized by the United States Marshal. They have federal arrest authority in conjunction with their state arrest authority, and they bring with them their local knowledge. They know the usual suspects. They know the crimes that plague the area. They know the areas because so many agents are transplanted from where they started. I mean, I started in Georgia, and they sent me to Iowa, and they sent me to Florida. I didn't have the connections like these deputies did that came through the ranks, know the communities really well, and are more accountable to it. And they're incentivized to actually bring the crime down. This is not defunding police. This is actually empowering local police, which is what we should do. It's very traditional with what you do in a constitutional republic.
Hey, Steve Friend, FBI whistleblower. He's got a book out called True Blue. What is the idea behind True Blue? Is this something that we've talked about before, or is this just now come out?
No, this is a book that I published in June of last year.
Gotcha.
It accounts for my experience as a police officer, as an FBI agent, and then the details, the whistleblowing I did, including a transcript, a 2-hour conversation.
going? Well, it waves. It's like no sound. I am so sick of that not working. And Waze has no updates on the app itself, just the server side of it. That's so dumb.